Yeah, I would say 5,000 years ago, you had a lot of gods come in. They are older than that, but then 5,000 years, they tried to do it as a propaganda hit piece on humanity, where you had a lot of masculine gods, sky gods taking over, and our gaze was turned from Mother Earth and the feminine to a sky pantheon of masculine gods. And there you have the ultimate masculine god, of course, Enlil, Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call him. And this have gone, this manipulation, like fear is a big part of it, as you said. You shouldn't go to the darkness, to the feminine, to Mother Earth. You should look up in the sky and you should worship these planets. And the planets is in Sumeria, you only had one planet attributed to a female goddess, and that was Ishtar, of course, and Venus. All the other planets was attributed to a masculine god, even the moon. So even the sky was like attributed to the masculine energy, and you should focus on that force. And I think if we human are much more powerful in our mind than we think, we can give this we can charge these forces up like an egregore aspect of it. If they whisper in our ears to worship these forces, we give them power, of course, we give them our time and energy. And I think there's a huge propaganda going on there. And as you said, go to Lilith, don't go to the dark, don't go to Mother.
Right, demonize Lilith and make her into a demon. I mean, meanwhile, she is the representative of prime creation, and it was Eve that was cloned out of Adam because he wanted a submissive version of himself. So when the whole masculine universe came into effect, I believe it was to murder the female Stargate and power. It was to kill that off, subjugate it, and cut it off from its immense ability. But I think it has a balance with the masculine in origin that as soon as that happened, both were completely inverted and both lost all balance, and it was kind of downhill from there. But the fear, the terror, seems to be around the woman, the female, the creator, the woman who can create, the woman Stargate, the Fireblood. The terror seems to be always with the woman, and hence make it all a patriarchal pantheon.
Yeah, I agree. And we have the Christian Gnostics, and they worship Sophia, and they view this planet as a prison planet, and it was bad, and you should end the reincarnation, and your soul was pure, and you should leave this prison. The aim was like, and if that's what you have in mind, that is what you get, kind of. But I think what happened as well was that they changed the name from Lilith to Sophia. I really think Lilith is Sophia, but they didn't want to call her Lilith because it seems dark, so they just changed the name of her, and they flipped it around and convoluted the real message here. That's the reason why I'm very skeptical towards anything 5,000 years earlier, because it seems that they have distorted the real knowledge, the real esoteric core that existed during Atlantis and beyond, I would say.
So who would you say are the negative dark gods that they inverted that are actually the light gods? And who are the light gods, and who are the dark gods that they made into the light gods?
Yeah. There's you can watch, you can see the stars and the planets, how they have done this, and it's very cleverly done. We have Kingu, who was Tiamat's champion and did war against Marduk and the Anunnaki gods. And according to the Anunnaki gods, they fought these forces because they were chaos, and they should keep chaos at bay to protect us from it. Right? So they need it under wrap, and they had to create this matrix to shut these forces out from our conscious to protect ourselves from them. And Marduk had many names. Among them is Amun-Ra, for example, in Egypt. And many seems to believe that these gods are good, and they have bought into this paradigm. And Kingu, another name of Kingu is Belial. And you have Rudolf Steiner and the Theosophical Society. And some people today, they deem Belial as this evil technology in combination with esoteric lore. So you have him like the transhumanistic esoteric magician. But that's not what it is. Kingu, Belial, he's more into transformation through awakening the dormant DNA within you. Therefore, for you to work with yourself, with your own temple, with your body. So I don't really know where the technology come in. The technology is more attributed to the Anunnaki gods, for example. And you have Enki, Marduk, who created the Tower of Babel. Enki is also Ptah in Egypt, and is attributed as the scientist and the magician. So it seems that they have, no, this aspect is better, will be pushed on to something else.
And what about the female gods?
Yeah. As I said, I think Lilith became Sophia for various reasons. And this Ishtar is a very interesting goddess, because Ishtar is like a rebellious teenager and is born into Enlil line. That means Jehovah. And she's attributed to witchcraft. So I wonder what they try to say is that she's and she had many, many names. And some of these names seems to be more in line with the dark forces, rather when the Anunnaki light forces. So I think she's she can call a rebel teenage daughter. You don't really know where you have her.
Mm-hmm.
And some into Wicca worship Ishtar, of course, and I'm a little bit reluctant to do it because she's still in an Anunnaki and in Enlil line. Therefore, I rather go back to Lilith, Hecate, those goddesses, than work with the newer one. Even though Ishtar is a very interesting goddess.
What do you think Ishtar's original name was before she was Ishtar?
Yeah, I wonder if it is her oldest name or not. That's a very good question. But she has many, many names.
Mm-hmm. This is the problem. They change the names all the time throughout the centuries, throughout the like whatever civilization it is, they change the name to suit the civilization, and it's a way to hide it. But yeah, I agree with you that before the 5,000 years would have been when you would get actual real information, and that's the whole purpose of why they had to burn down the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Any caches in the world that were left of the original information, the scrolls, it just seemed like there were these disasters that happened to destroy it all. Fires, earthquakes, and it sank in the water, on and on.
Yeah, I agree. And Ishtar is interesting in many ways. She was supposed to marry Marduk. So the idea was to merge two different Anunnaki lines, the Enlil line and the Enki line. And this is the origin story of Romeo and Juliet, isn't that name? Yeah.
Yep.
But it never came about. So they didn't make peace with these family lines. So it seems in the mythology and the stories, it seems to be a war or a conflict between this line. And there are different ideas what they want to do with humanity. But I still don't trust Enki line either. Some go to Enki line if they are esoteric left-hand path. I go further back than that, even that. And Enki is attributed to Sirius, for example. But it isn't technology aspect to Enki because he's the scientist and the magician. So it seems what they are saying, they will use technology to connect to Sirius again. Instead of Dagon, for example. Dagon is an older, great old one, and Dagon is also aimed at Sirius. His star is also Sirius, but Dagon doesn't have any technology attributed to him. It seems to be more, if you worship Dagon or work with Dagon, he's saying that your body is your temple, and you don't need technology to get in line with Sirius. As soon as this technology come about, I'm a little bit skeptical, because that's exactly what you see in the esoteric so-called elite, that they use technology instead of their own spirit to go there. Where we can go, they can go, but they need technology instead. Why?
Exactly. So why do you... Okay, maybe let's get into why Sirius is the goal, and why Polaris stepped in terms of... I feel like Polaris has been a part of the inversion.
Yeah. Very good question. Yeah. For me, I aim at Sirius.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit similar aim as the esoteric elite. But as I said, I don't like the idea of using technology to do it. I think that's very dangerous.
I agree.
And then you have to take a difference between Sirius A and Sirius B. It's about masculine, feminine, and so on. What do you want? What kind of a spiritual connection do you want to communicate with? And this Polaris stuff, it felt like they call it the stairway to heaven, and you're supposed to work with this Ursa Major, and the stars in Ursa Major is 7, and you work with the planets and the moon you can see. And these planets and the moon you can see in our sky, like Venus, Moon, Mars, is attributed to one star each in the Ursa Major Dipper. So you have 7 stars, 7 planets, and you should be in line with this energy and these forces. And then these planets in turn is attributed to one Anunnaki god. Can it be like instead of... going the stairway of heaven, you give away your energy, soul force to the Polaris or these forces? Because I feel the right-hand path is very aimed at this stairway to heaven, and this Polaris go around the Dipper, the Ursa Major go around this Polaris star.
Yeah.
And in Sweden we call it Karlavagnen. is a Karl's wagon or a man's wagon. And this man's wagon was feminine, lo and behold, from the beginning, but now it has become masculine. Why do they always take over this feminine that should be feminine and change it with the masculine force of control? I wonder if that Stargate is closed, or if it has become something else, like a soul harvest spark, gold. They came here to mine gold, the Anunnaki gods. For me, mining gold means our gold, our energy, DNA. I don't believe for a second they came here to mine real gold, right? They're talking in symbology, of course. And in this wagon, it's a perfect symbol for mining gold.
Right.
Take it away.
Yeah. And it's us who are the gold. Interestingly, a lot of the Titan bodies that have gotten petrified and have created these realms is where you get the gold veins. It's from their bodies, because their bodies were filled with gold. At one time, I believe, we had more gold in our bodies.
Yeah.
And when the fall happened and the firmament and the waters came down, I think that's when everything changed, and they wanted more iron in our bodies. Take out the copper, take out the gold, and that was a way to compromise the DNA. Where do you think Alcyon fits into this picture?
Who?
Alcyon.
Alcyon. I don't... tell me. What is...
Alcyon is it's another star that I believe... to me, it's very interesting, but I believe there's a relationship with Sirius. And I do think that the elites... there's something around their belief system also that they're utilizing Alcyon. Because I know that there's one of the dams that they have, there's a lot of their statues that they have, and it's strangely placed in the Hoover Dam. But in the center, you see Alcyon's statue, and it's Alcyon because it says Alcyon with all of these other celestials around her. So I was just curious if you came across anything regarding...
Yeah, they are very interesting. A lot of this is about the fixed stars. I don't know if it is one of the fixed stars, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And it's a fixed star. You have 15 fixed stars that use more than others. And I'm going to talk about some of them here in my presentation because they are important. And of course, one of the fixed stars is Sirius.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a connection between the stars. And it also marks the exit point from the matrix we live in. It's like, if you aim at a fixed star, you aim to leave or to like go over the matrix to see it from the outside, either to leave or empower yourself by expose the matrix construct by using its fixed stars. And the magician used the fixed star to drag down certain effects on the material plane as well, enhance baneful magic, attack magic, or enhance specific effects they want to have on the material plane.
I think that they found a way to hijack the Celestials and force them, if you will, or alter them, change them so they became rogue, and now they became a part of the machine system of reality to govern, rule over the material, over us. But my question is, were these Celestials in origin actually rogue? Because I feel they were not rogue in the real universe, not in the overlay. What would you say?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I know that if I read the mythology about the Anunnaki, it seems to be that some of the Anunnaki had good attention towards humanity, but they seems to fall prey to the pull of material existence. And I think because the gods seems to be very human in their ways, in the character, in what they are doing against each other, and I wonder if the material pull, the ego start to work, they are worshipped, they can take physical form on the material plane, and they succumb to the ego, and they start to be corrupted. I'm not sure that Enki line was that corrupt before, and maybe there are still like Mordukites that have a good attention. It feels like a split. They wouldn't surprise me if the forces you are talking about, the Celestials, as well. For example, you read about this Fire mythology, she's fallen, and so on. And it wouldn't surprise me if you can become corrupt through exposing yourself to material life. Now, it's a good question if these forces are older and wiser than the Anunnaki. I don't know. But the Anunnaki have been around for many, many millions of years. It's not like a new force here.
Do you know any information about because the name Anunnaki means from those who came from heaven, something like that, those who fell or who do come from heaven, but that doesn't really say who they are. That doesn't really say where they came from. Is there any information about that?
Yeah, they are described as having some reptilian future to them. And of course, this is very interesting. What I think they are for the most part spiritual, but spirits that can take physical forms. But when they take physical form, they seem to be having reptilian future to them. They doesn't seem to be hugely different from humans because they seem to be able to blend in with us. According to the scripture, they have been among us. In one scripture, it said they came to Babylon and captured Marduk. Did they mean that they captured the god Marduk, or do they mean they captured the statue? Did they capture Marduk in physical form? I don't know how long ago this was, but they seems to blend in quite well with the human race. So I think they look a lot like us, but with some reptilian future to them when they manage to take physical form. Yeah. And you have, for example, Marduk. He's a half god and half human. Therefore, he has an easier. It is easier for him to take physical form because he has a lot of human DNA in him as well. And I think there is an agenda from Enki's side here to have a half god, because Enki took a woman as a human woman as a wife. Maybe what he wanted was a Anunnaki half god who had an easier time to take physical form in matter and do his bidding for him. But when he did that, I think Marduk became corrupt by power, because now he was a half human, half god, and felt the pull of materials, matter, like everything we are tempted by. He was tempted as well. I don't know if Enki ever had good attention for humanity. we can have a discussion about it. And some don't like the Anunnaki God at all. I think they are our archons and the one who harvests us. And doesn't look good, I think.
How long do you think that they have been here? How many millions of years do you think we're talking about?
Yeah, many millions of years. Hard to tell. But what I think happened is that the laws of nature shift over time. Therefore, they have an easier time to have physical form here during certain times. So they have come and gone, I think. And but I think because it seems to find technology and stuff that you can't explain where they come from. They are very, very old stuff. Like 40 million, even more.
Right.
So I think we talk about a very long period of time they have been here.
Do you think all the gods have been reincarnated into human? Or a human version? Or what looks like a human version?
Yeah. According to the text, they have. Even Anu have walked here among us during a time where the human race as we know it today wasn't around, kind of, I think. So we're talking about a long time ago. But even Anu, according to this text, it says he walked among us. But then you had Enki and Enlil. And Enki and Enlil is his firstborn sons. And they seems to have physical form here on this material plane not that long ago. And Marduk and their children, they walked among us according to the myth and the texts 4,000 years ago and even 3,000 years ago. It wasn't that long. According to this text, they walked among us. And that's very...
Right.
It might be true. If they almost look like us, they can walk among us and not be detected that easy. They have some reptilian feature to them, it says in the texts, but still not that different, I would say.
Right. Where would you say that they have an origin point in Orion?
Yeah, there is certain a connection with Orion here. And we talked about this with the light become the dark and the dark become the light and so on. And I think this is the war against the ancient gods, the great old ones. Because if you notice, for example, Sirius was Dagon's star from the beginning and suddenly became Enki's star, taking over that star, that fixed star, very important star. What are they trying to tell us? You have our sun, you have Shamash, was an Anunnaki god, Enlil line. Even the sun, right? Our sun is very important. But it was also attributed to Anunnaki god, Enlil line, Shamash. And then it became Mithra in Persia. It became... but that's the star, right? But who is Mithra then? Is Mithra another name for Shamash? Or who is Mithra? Is Mithra a good god, an ancient god? Some believe Mithra is Lucifer, Prometheus. I don't agree with that, but some believe that. Then you have a shift from Mithra, Prometheus, Lucifer, an ancient god, to a Titan in the Greek mythology, because Prometheus was a Titan, not an Olympian god. Changed to this Shamash, and Shamash is, you have to consider him as an Olympian god. So you have the Olympians, is the same as the Anunnaki, and they were taking over from the Titans in Greek mythology. And then they have a... Yeah, sorry.
No, you're like, it's exactly what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, who are the Titans and where does Prometheus play into this?
Yeah.
Right? So you went right into it because that was in my questions.
Yeah, this is a very interesting story. And you can actually make sense of it if you understand what happened here. In the Greek mythology, you have Kronos, and Kronos was a Titan. And he swallowed his own children. And when he was supposed to swallow Zeus, Zeus fought back and defeated and overcame Kronos. And Zeus became the gods, Olympian gods, or the god of the gods. But this Zeus character is also Marduk. Or some believe is Enlil. But here's the interesting part. If we understand the Sumerian Anunnaki mythology, then Saturn is not a Titan, but Saturn is Enlil's son Ninurta. So Saturn is younger than the old Anunnaki gods, like Enlil and Enki and Anu. So what's going on here? Zeus wanted to create order and have control over this matrix we are living in, and he had to defeat Kronos, chaos, time, and bound him and having him restrained. He's a half god, therefore he knows when he do this, he will also feel the pull of matter, because now he has closed off the skies into this matrix, and he himself is within this frame, this matrix. And because Ninurta, Saturn, working for Enlil, that is the force that will start to work on Zeus Marduk. So he will be start be programmed by Enlil line. Because Enlil line will take over the position of Marduk, Jupiter. So Enlil is Jupiter, Enlil's son is Saturn, and Enlil's son Saturn is Jehovah. And this is Enlil is Jehovah, but it is Jehovah's son Saturn, Ninurta, that is the demiurge. So you have that Jehovah and his son demiurge controlling, taking over this matrix. So even though Zeus, Marduk have them bound, they know it will come a time when these forces start to take over the matrix. And Zeus Marduk knows this, and that's the reason why I think Enki want him to build the tower, the Marduk Babylon tower, to reconnect to Enki, to Sirius, to open up the matrix in order for him not to become fallen, bound force under Enlil's rule.
Interesting.
So he knows his clock is ticking, but he has a plan to connect to Enki for technology, to open up the skies so he can leave and not become prey for these forces, because later on they will take over. And right now, of course, there is Enlil, Ninurta, Saturn that rules the demiurge, taking over this matrix from the Marduk Enki line.
Right, so by creating this, they bound themselves.
Yeah.
And now they're wanting a way out.
Yeah, and now you see the elite part of them try to open up the skies again. And I think it is the corrupted priesthood of Marduk who aim to do it with technology, because Enki, Marduk's father, is the magician and the scientist. And you have his machine in nuclear plant based on water, right? Nuclear plant is just a steam engine. Mm-hmm. It's technology based on water. And you have heavy water. They do atomic bomb with heavy water. and an atomic bomb rips a hole in the fabric of space-time. So it's Enki's technology that tear a hole in Enlil's demiurgic matrix.
And, if that succeeds, let's say, what would be the result for our universe?
Yeah, I think they are very close to open up the skies again, and I think the cracks is already showing. And I think for them, they need to control the forces outside, because you and I, if we are prepared for this influx, we are like a battery. If we work with our temple and make this battery bigger within us, we are going to take in these forces within us. When they open the skies, we can be free as well.
Yeah.
Therefore, they want to connect us to their machine through vaccine, 5G, make us to androids, where we lose the spark, where we lose the battery. We cannot charge it when the forces come in, because they open the skies. So it's a matter of time now. It's a war of time, really. We are in the apocalyptic end time scenario, not like everything will go to smithereens, but a shift. Either we evolve or we devolve. That's the only choices we will have.
Well, what if both things happen with the splitting of the cells, and you have a dimensional split that occurs where they will have what they want with these biobots in this cell, but we will be able to transfer out of this whole system.
Yeah, and this is the thing. A lot of right-hand paths, they want to leave, of course. I don't want to leave. When this transition, when the new matrix come about, it will be a huge shift. I think we need our memory intact. We need our power. We need the aim to go, that we want to go there. If the aim, if the mind is focused to leave, then that's what you're going to do, because the elite opened the skies again. And now they want you gone. They want you to leave. Because otherwise, why should they kill off 80% of humanity if they come back again? There's not any logic in that. But if they open up the skies, get rid of 80% of humanity, and the ones who are left connected to an android high mind, that now they can open the skies, and we will not be able to take advantage of the forces or energy that will pour into our matrix down here.
So who are the ancient old gods that are deemed as like the negative evil gods? Who are they, and are they going to help? What's their plan?
Yeah. In the Greek mythology, they were called the Titans, and I call them the Watchers, some of them. It's a mess. Here it is a very mess. The fallen angels is more like the Anunnaki. Now the Watchers came down here. So in a sense they were fallen, because when they saw the flood came, and it is Enlil Jehovah who created this flood, right? He wants to drown us. Too much noise, too much humans, too much technology, too much humans who have the ability to soul travel and mess around there where they shouldn't be, like in the astral, the mental. No, we don't want you here. Enlil was pissed off. Now let's drown this humanity in water. But water is, of course, not only water. Water is memory, it is language, it is nations, it is science. So when he drowned humanity, shattered our DNA, took away our memory, took away the language we had before, the previous Matrix, that was more based on form, sound, light. It wasn't easy to manipulate others. It was more straight to the point. Today we can use language to manipulate, lie, cheat, and do whatever, twist everything around. But all that went missing. Our memory was wiped clean. For example, what happened between 10,000 BC and 5,000 BC is like no one knows. It's like the clean. It's like gone.
Yep.
We can find some ruins, but if we agree that you had this Atlantean period, then surely we should see some cool buildings, high advanced societies. But there's nothing. Everything seems to be 12,500 BC. 10,000 BC or older.
Yeah.
So it's like we started all over and humanity devolved. And Noah was a boatman, and Noah tried to take the memory of the previous Matrix over to the new one in order for us to have the memory intact. But Noah failed. He took land. He failed with the mission. And because he failed, we had to start all over again. And when the boatman comes, the tower comes. And the tower is, of course, this elite technology. They try to do the same thing, but they use technology instead. So if you have an elite using the technology to bridge this matrix shift, and we fail, they will control us, because we will not have any memory, we will not have any power, the DNA is shut down. Now it's very easy to control us and start all over. And what they want us to do from here on is to recreate their structure, their infrastructure again. And we have done that now. And now they don't need us anymore. And they want to open the skies. And they know that if we are ready for it, prepared for it, they can't control us anymore.
Right.
But we have to work, of course. Nothing is given for free. But if enough of us work, prepare for the time that comes, and if we become a boatman, either a boatman himself or at least be on board, then we will overcome them. Then the game is all.
Mm-hmm. And so the old gods before them, the ones that they call the evil, right? And they bound the Titans.
Yeah.
They bound Prometheus.
Yeah, exactly. For example, Prometheus was a Titan, and Zeus bound him on the Caucasus Mountain, chained him. And of course, Prometheus is Lucifer. So what's the point here? The point is that Zeus wanted to know what Prometheus knew. And Prometheus knew that Noah would fail. But Prometheus wanted to have a spark on board. And he gave the spark to Elio. Elio is Nama. Nama is Lilith's sister. And this spark is a DNA program that can unlock the 22 strands of DNA that is missing. It's like almost like a software, right? Mm-hmm. Bird, that's a spark. Because he saw that if Enlil get his way, and if Noah fail, then we might never be able to rise up again. But with this spark and the idea that they had to upgrade the human body after this matrix shift, because we were fractured, So here comes the idea with the Nephilim. And the Nephilim intermarried or took female wives, human wives, and they did a hybrid between the Nephilim and the Homo sapiens race in order for them to be able to hold the spark within them and to be able to ignite it further on in order for not to become slaves on the Enlil for like ever.
So then, are you saying the Nephilim are actually good?
Yeah.
And that she was the one that, well, what happened to her? And talk about the Nephilim actually being good and they inverted them into evil.
Yeah. The thing from the beginning, the Nephilim was not corrupted. I think some became like corrupted later on, but we are the Nephilim, right? So if you say Nephilim are evil, you are cursing our race because we are mixed with them. We are the carrier of the spark, and that is because they had to do it like that in order for us not to become slave under Enlil forever. We needed to be able to rise up from this, to wake up, to take back the 22 dormant DNA shut down in us. So Elio Nama is a Nephilim and existed before the flood. Therefore, she's very old. At least 10,000, I would say. And Lilith is older than that. Lilith is ancient. And then you have the Titans, like Prometheus. You have Atlas, who's a Titan. You have Poseidon is a Titan. And here is a little bit strange thing going on, because Poseidon is also Enki, and Enki is Ptah. So what's going on there? Is Enki on our side, or what's going on?
What is going on?
Yeah, but I think in the Greek mythology, they don't have this... they have the Titans, and then they have the Olympians. But in the Anunnaki, you have the old Anunnaki gods, Enlil, Enki, and the Anu, and the younger pantheon. When they do the transition to the Olympian gods, some of this ancient or the old Anunnaki gods become some of the Titans and some not.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So this Elionam, very interesting. So that's Lilith's sister.
Yeah.
And so she mated with who?
Yeah, they don't say it's specific, but they used her to create this hybrid race between between the Nephilim and the human race. Mm-hmm. Or at least she carried the spark to give to the new race, mm-hmm. the hybrid race between the Nephilim and the Homo sapiens. Mm-hmm. And we are that race now, so you don't curse the Nephilim. Can they have become corrupted, some of them? Yes, they can. As I said, the Anunnaki could, and maybe they could. But from the beginning, the Nephilim came and they were supposed to be the good rulers and teach us how to be a good ruler. And all of this has been, of course, turned around against us, and the Nephilim are evil, and the fallen ones, raping women, and so on. That's not what's going on.
Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between the Nephilim and the fallen angelics?
Yeah. The fallen angelics, the Watchers, was the one who helped to place the spark within this new race, I would say. Mm-hmm. There's a huge connection there. And I also think that the Anunnaki was mixed into this as well, because we can call Marduk a fallen angel because, as I said, he became corrupt and so on. Mm. So what are they talking about? This is very hard to yeah. I think in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it's a lot of propaganda going on.
I would agree.
Yeah, so I think the Nephilim is considered to be fallen angels sometimes with the Watchers, but they are not really they are not the same, but they are the same force. And the idea here is to save humanity under the oak of not become slaves under Enlil forever.
Right.
And of course that was Prometheus. Prometheus saw that when he was chained on Caucasus Mountain, and Zeus wanted to know what he knew, because Prometheus could see in the future, in the past, in the metaphysical, and in matter, because he was a Titan. But Zeus was a half-god, Marduk, and he didn't have that power. But he wanted to know what Prometheus saw. And Prometheus saw that it will become a time, and that time is now, where this race we create will ignite with this spark and open up the 22 dormant strands of DNA within them and start to take back our birthright. And we will not be slaves anymore.
And we will take down the machine.
Yeah, and we will take down this machine. And of course Zeus wanted to see and understand what he knew. So they use Prometheus, and this is the... People can't wrap their mind around this. The elite say, well, we worship Lucifer. No, they don't. They worship the bound part of Lucifer. And they can take out information and knowledge of Prometheus, Lucifer about technology, because they don't have the spark, they don't have the soul we have. But they can use it for understand technology and like create more and more powerful technology. Now, if you think about it from Prometheus Lucifer perspective, then in order for us to be free, they are doing our bidding, the elite. Because when they open the skies, and Lucifer, Prometheus help us with the spark. It's more on our side. They use force to have some knowledge and use for Prometheus. That you don't treat a friend like that.
Right, because they're using a counterfeit system to try and access what we can access naturally because of what we are.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Now, so Lucifer, although Lucifer, Prometheus will allow them to have the technology, because that's the only way that they can think that they're getting it through that counterfeit system. In actuality, yes, it's working for us because it's through that technology that the gates will open.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Where do you think...
Zeus wanted to understand that, but he...
Right. Where do you think the relationship is between the Atlanteans and the Anunnaki? Are they one and the same? Did the Anunnaki create Atlantis? Did they build it? Is this one and the same?
That's a very good question. I think Atlantis was a long period of time, right? It wasn't in the end of the period. It became two priest class. One was aimed at technology, and the other was aimed at spiritual. That your body is your temple.
Lemuria.
Yeah, Lemuria was there as well, but I think Atlantis, the real heart of Atlantis, is Antarctis. It is Atlantis under ice, and I think it's about water memory. It is under memory, a forgotten past, because ice is water. I think that's the reason why the elite are there. I think it was humans who started Atlantis. I don't like the idea that take away our ability, when we do the right, we can be very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think Atlantis was infiltrated.
Right.
And I think it became a matter of technology versus spirit, like doing it through spirit. And we have the same struggle right now. We have gone full circle after the collapse. And according to the Theosophical Society, of course, Belial was this technology evil side.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
That seems more like the Anunnaki. So I wonder if this is a propaganda hit piece to hide the fact that it was a part of Anunnaki family who was the technology driven part here.
Mm-hmm. And therefore it would have been the Anunnaki who hijacked Atlantis.
Yeah, I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
It seems so, because you have Dagon, for example, in the series I was in talked about before, and Dagon doesn't talk about technology.
Right.
It's more like do it through go into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Enki, and he's also attributed to Sirius, but he's the scientist and the magician. So it sounds much more like Anunnaki when we talk about the technology side in Atlantis period, the end of it, that came out as the winner from this ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
I would say.
Do you remember the Dogon in Africa who wrote in their caves all about the Osiris? Basically wrote it all. It's super ancient, way before we had any astronomers who could even know this. Yeah. So it seems to me that they're the keepers of the ancient knowledge and the ancient God.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very interesting. And they worship the Ancient One, the Dagon, and they should, if they haven't been manipulated, corrupted, if they still have the original teaching, mm-hmm. they sure have a very interesting part of history.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be very interesting to know what they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they haven't been wiped out. So somehow they're preserved.
True.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So where do you see us going with the 22 strands that have been dormant? Where do you see us evolving when we're being hit with so much dirty technology to completely, absolutely render us incapacitated?
Yeah. This is a hard time to live in because of all this technology, and people get attacked and arrested by this, and it's very hard to focus on what you should do. People are very distracted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I mean, I foresee these energy waves that are going to enter to help us. So even though that they're accessing or they're wanting to open the sky with technology, I see these new particles coming in that are working with us through our DNA and basically waking us up, waking the DNA, and so we're able to access more.
I
mean, do you see anything like that?
Yeah, things are happening for sure. More and more people wake up. More and more people see and feel these forces.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's easier for us to get in contact with the Watchers, with the ancient gods than ever before. At least I feel it. And I think we are in an end time situation for sure. I think what you should do to work through this technology, you should have your temple set up and withdraw into your temple and start to work with yourself and go within. The only way to wake up, according to me, is to... there are different methods. Sure, you can aim to leave and go away. Maybe you can achieve what you are aimed to do. For me, I like to think that we have to go within, into our unconscious, the darkness. We have to go back to the feminine, to Mother Earth, to the womb, where the light doesn't touch you, because the light have been corrupted, manipulated, and aimed against you. I don't see anything true anymore in the light, if I'm going to be very rude. Mm-hmm. So I think what you should try to do is to go within, right? To work with the chakra, Kundalini, awakening. This is very powerful. And with that, you will start to have more better cognitive abilities like memory, be able to focus more. And we need that badly, because we are getting poisoned with the food, with the water, energy, 5G, and all of that. And that, I can promise you that if you do the right method, go within, have a good temple set up where you can work with these forces, because sometimes we don't see how the journey should start. But if you put just one foot into the darkness, to your temple, to the womb, to go back, you are on your way.
So when you say set up a temple, what do you mean by set up a temple? And when you're setting up a temple, even when you're dealing with these old ancient gods that are before the techno gods, isn't that also a part of the demiurge? Isn't that also a part of the matrix? Isn't that also a part of the archetype prison containment system? Isn't that all essentially so this is sort of the thing that I come across, is that are you binding yourself again to some other system?
Some of our ancient gods became trapped in different moons, even here with us. I view Lilith as a fallen Sophia. I think that mythology is about Lilith.
I do too.
Yeah, great, because it's very good. Yeah, because I think Lilith chose to fall here with us in order for us to be able to go back to her and go back to the darkness, to the womb, and unlock forces and power within us in order for us never to be able to be trapped here. And without a spark intact, Lucifer sent the spark with Lilith's sister, with Aelon. And we are talking about women, gods, and God. All these women are like defeated or like, lies upon lies. For me, it should start with the feminine, with the darkness, with the womb of Lilith. To withdraw into the darkness again. Because this is all about manipulation and lies and deceit. I'm not meaning that the masculine is bad. We need that as well. But the start is to go back to the feminine, to the darkness. And to start with Lilith is important if you go to the Qliphothic tree. And Lilith is the first goddess you should work with. And we have more ancient gods on our side, like Azazel. And Azazel has stated that I am trapped within one of Saturn's moons, Mimas. Now, Mimas is an artificial moon. And we can view these gods and goddesses as plasma. and it is intelligent plasma. And this is like when the thunderstorm charges up to the clouds, that's plasma. But this is old, ancient plasma, intelligent life forms. But if you have an artificial moon like Mimas, you can higher up the gravity in Mimas to draw this plasma towards it, and then it won't be able to leave because the gravity is too powerful. And if you remember in the Greek mythology where Saturn Kronos ate his own children, was it plasma he was chewing up, like draw the plasma towards him to
right. So I'm going to show something. I often take pictures of the stars and the planets. I do that often. So we're talking about plasma, right? And a lot of the time, because I think what we've been programmed to believe the celestials are, the stars are, it's just a lot of the interface for this limited reality, but I think it's more about what you're talking. So, hang on a sec. I'm just going to take the backdrop off so you can see this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so that's... Why isn't it focusing? It's not focusing.
Beautiful.
So when I take these pictures, I don't know why my phone is able to go so close into it, but essentially these celestials are alive. Like I can't tell you how many times I have faces in these, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And then some people believe it's UFOs, but it's flickering, it's moving around.
Yeah.
That's like angels, celestials, gods. The sun is plasma, it's not a fireball in the sky, and therefore people are worshipping our sun as sun worshipping, because it's plasma, it's an intelligent life form.
Right. I love it. That's beautiful. Now, do you think Lilith... Well, two things. I believe Lilith manifested in human form throughout all of this time that she's come in and out. I don't know what you have to say about that, but I truly believe that it's not just kept. She's not just kept in some like dimensional plasmic state.
I see it.
And what do you think that the characteristics, some of the physical and metaphysical characteristics of the Nephilim are in us? Because you often hear archaeological discoveries where they have discovered these, what they call Nephilim, and they have 6 toes, 6 fingers, double rows of teeth. You know, are they actually the Nephilim that they're discovering, or is this something different? If we are Nephilim, what characteristics and traits do we have being Nephilim versus the Watchers? I know this is all a lot of questions, so maybe you can talk about Lilith manifesting, reincarnating, if you will, and then the other stuff.
Yeah. The Nephilim, they said they were great in stature and size, but that's not necessarily true. Some of they were, but they were mighty men of renown. They were more mighty in psychic power. They were big in intuitivity, the spiritual science, the esoteric science, the method. They have had abilities like soul travel and so on. They were mighty men. And you can see that in us, especially during this time around. And of course, because we have internet, now we can connect. So now we meet each other who have these abilities. But you can see these abilities in us. And in the lot of like art from Sumeria. You have this big bearded man holding a lion and so on.
Right.
So you think he's a huge man, but that's not what they tell you. What's going on here? He is mighty in mind, therefore he can overcome the lion's strength, because he's mightier than the lion's strength mental. Therefore he can hold the lion because he's mentally very powerful, even more powerful than the lion is in strength. And the lion has teeth and claws. Still, he can hold him like a pussycat. He's like mentally a mental giant. And now we can understand what the book of Daniel is all about, because Daniel's thrown out into a pit with lions, and he could mentally overcome the lions because he was an esoteric master who could manipulate them, and they didn't tear him apart.
Right.
And you can see the strength in some of us. Some of us have much easier to have result when we do method. We are born with abilities to feel energy, to be able to leave our body. Some people are more gifted than others, let's say.
Right.
Now, I think most people can learn, but some are more skilled and have an easier time to learn it. And this Nephilim race who intermarried with us, of course, we intermarried in turn with other races, of course.
Right.
But I think, and this is like you shouldn't talk about it for some reason, but I think you can see there are huge difference between people and people, and between different races of people. For example, the white race, they like to travel, and when they travel with the boat, like the Vikings, they came to America, called it the Vineland. They tried to get hold of the land and have a colony. They didn't go back and forget about it. They wanted to be there to get hold of the land. They were explorers and was expanded. If you view the black race, they don't travel around and try to get hold of colonies and so on. The Chinese traveled to America 1450 something, but they just left. They didn't try to colonize it, even though they had better technology than the Vikings, had a better opportunity, bigger boats. No, they went home, and then the Chinese shut down this exploration. You only see this in the white race, the expansion and the willingness to colonize and explore, curiosity. So we have that expansion in us, and we also have the spiritual aspect of us. Now, the black race are good shamans and have their tradition for sure. What we have lost as the white race, I think, is the connection with nature. And there we have to take it back.
I agree.
There is a huge disadvantage in our race there. But it haven't always been like that. The Vikings was shamans into nature, boats, water, dragons, esoteric people. And here in Sweden, we were the last of the Nordic countries that was defeated by the Vatican, because we were the most spiritual, shamanistic Vikings. The Danish was the more warrior-like, and then you had the Norwegian, they were in between there. But finally, of course, because Vatican is, of course, this demiurgic, like company banking system, it was a matter of time, right? But for example, where I live on Gotland, we have a church 5 minutes walk from my home. And it's from 1100, that church. And they still have the ruins there, because it was a period. So they have ruins in the church. So they have a period where it was an overbridging between the esoteric Asa belief and the Christianity.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So who do you think these bodies are of these, quote, what they call Nephilim that have double row teeth, 6 digits? Who are they and who are the giants? The giant bones all over the world, ginormous.
Yeah, exactly. Who are they? It's crazy, right? I wonder if huge genetic experimentation have taken, if they are genetic created, or some of them seems to be in the Asa belief. You have the giants, you have the war between the Asa gods and the giants, where chaos once more, or like in the Easter Island, they have this big stone heads. And one lady I knew said there is a connection between the Easter Island and a lake in Sweden. I was like, what do you say? And more people than her have discovered it. So it seems to be like nodes on this planet who are like portals or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So very strange.
Well, it's believed that Easter Island is what is a remnant left of Lemuria. That it's a piece of land of Lemuria that didn't go down.
Yeah, sounds plausible. Yeah, interesting.
So we've got
but I think the giants there. What I think happened after the period of Atlantis. I think there is more to it than genetic manipulation. I think the genetic manipulation is a thing, but I think there were real giants here.
Yes.
If we have a big, huge flood and civilization destroyed, and you have humanity evolving because loss of memory, loss of language, and so on. I think there was a huge war between different humanoid races. I absolutely don't believe in this scientific that we were the only one. I think there were small people, giant. It was us. It was the Nephilim. It was a huge war going on, and the war was for food and of survival.
Right.
And I also think that we came out as winner from that war for various reasons. The giants need a lot of food. And I think because of the catastrophic apocalyptic event, it was hard to get food, and they start to eat us or cannibalize. Then we saw them as our enemy.
Right.
And I think we were perfect size. We didn't need that much food. If you were smaller than us, you could be easily defeated. I think it was part of our planet who became flooded, and that you should be at least quite tall, not to be able to walk through snow, water, and the terrain. And I think the small people get lost, and they had advantage. I think we was the perfect size, mental strength, and to survive.
The linear timeline to me is just ridiculous. I'll just say that. So when I think of the Neanderthal and the Cro-Magnon and the Denisovan and those species, where do they fit in to this all?
Exactly. There's so many things here. First off, if a modern human, would be born and raised in the woods with no connection to society, that human wouldn't be able to speak. It would be very primitive. So even in our race, you can have very primitive, like animal, like humans, and all the way to people like living in big cities, doing art, working with the esoteric and transform. So you have a huge difference within our race. I think, and even today we have people living in jungles we haven't met.
Right.
I think we lived along at the same time with a lot of these races, but it doesn't mean that we evolved from them, or they like it's much more complicated.
Right.
And I think they try to take out the humanoid races that don't fit their narrative. From the elongated skulls, where do they fit into this?
Right. Exactly.
It's like gone. They try to explain there when they've deformed their head because they want to see strange, all that nonsense they try to pull in front of our eyes. They really don't want us to understand our real history.
Yeah.
And a lot of things was going on after like 10,000 BC.
Yeah.
And during this 10,000 BC, 5,000 BC, it's like a huge gap of time. The memory's gone. We don't know what happened. And I think a lot of struggle of survival of the fittest was going on because our environment had become very hostile. And I think we had the perfect height, perfect mental capacity, but it was a struggle because we had devolved after the flood, memory loss, and all of that. We had to pick us up. And then the war for resources, food, and so on, during a period that we were devolving, became a very big threat against the human race, and it was a huge struggle. I think it was a period of chaos.
Well, and I think in that period there was experimentation being done, and I think it was after a huge catastrophe that wiped out everything, because you see civilizations, great civilizations belonging to, when you're talking about citadel cities, beautiful structures, like gone, melted, everything. So then you've got like Neanderthal, you've got, which to me, after a huge catastrophe that would be almost an extinction level event, right? Like a pole reversal, like a full pole reversal, magnetic reversal. At these points, at these junctures, you see all these species coming up that didn't exist before. So to me, I'm looking at experimentation here. I'm looking at somebody's creating these things and killing them off again and again and again. And you've got a wipeout of a previous civilization, unknown, like forgotten completely, but remnants left. The bottom of the ocean is littered with this, which Google Earth has completely blotted out, because you used to be able to see more of this years ago. So I see so much tampering here. So much genetic augmentation and experimentation with these new species and wiping out the old ones. To me, this past 12,500 years is like the last, like you say, devolved version. Which thankfully we had that strand that was kept in us. And my question is, with all of this, so why was it Lilith's sister and not Lilith? Why did the strand come from Lilith's sister?
The strand was there in us, but it was shut down. But in order for us to have access to it again, they need to give us the spark to
wake it up.
To wake it up. And it was Alo. And Alo is a mask of, or Nama, same goddess. I think Lilith have fallen, ended up in a kind of a matrix within the matrix kind of a thing. We can still access her, because people doesn't understand for a start that our material realm is like there are realms within realms within realms in matter. You don't have to aim for the stars. This place right here is an amazing place, but we don't have access to it because they have convinced us that we can't have access to it, but that's a lie. And many of these races, they're pointing out to the sky, they come from there, they come from here, underneath us. Exactly. And you should be very, very careful when you look too much up to the stars, because that's how they get you, because they don't want you to understand that a lot of this that happened today is here, with us here.
Right.
And I agree with you, because the tower during the collapse of Atlantis was successful. Therefore, you had an elite who still have the knowledge intact from previous matrix. What they don't have was that the technology was fractured and destroyed. Doesn't mean all technology. For example, if they see this apocalyptic thing coming about, they could flee down in tunnels with some technology to have it intact, and they can, maybe they can't connect the infrastructure in a global way, but if they have enough tech going, they can like have weapons. They have saved. They can have maybe some genetic manipulation technology and MK Ultra technology, and this is a little bit scary. Now I just speculate a little bit here. So only to speculate. If this elite want to control humanity after this war, and if the Nazis and this modern MK Ultra, and if this elite is mimicking, have gone like full circle, can a lot of these gods be an MK Ultra program aimed at us through the esoteric elite in order for them to keep us down and in control? Like, is this put in us? How old are these gods? I don't trust any new gods, as I said. That's the reason why I go back. Is this just an MK Ultra program? I wonder.
I agree with you 100%. So Lilith is one of the old gods. Who are the old gods? Like, Lilith is one.
Lilith,
Dagon is another.
Prometheus. And Atlas.
Yeah.
And you have many more. The great old ones in Hopi Lovecraft mythology. There you find some Cthulhu, for example, Cthulhu. So this is, of course, like a family of gods. It's not like one god. You have Belial, and Belial's old name is Kingu. And you have Tiamat, and Kingu was the champion of Tiamat, of course. So you have a lot of feminine dark force here. You have the masculine gods working for the feminine. You see, they're twisted around.
Right.
Everything is turned upside down. And I go back to these titans, ancient gods, the great old ones, because I'm not sure. Maybe the rest of them are like an MK Ultra program. For example, if you have this technology, if the elite manage to have this technology intact after the fall of Atlantis, and if our mind is very powerful and we can create an egregore, if we focus on it enough, or people focus on this, and you have a plasma, you have the plasma behind Mars, for example. And then you say you should worship Nergal, who is Mars. You put this MK Ultra programming in a lot of people, they start to charge up this plasma with their own pattern, and make the egregore just builds up like a huge,
exactly, God. And then it becomes a god.
Yeah, and then it becomes a god.
Like Yahweh.
Giving away all our power. We have created our own prison. Mm-hmm. We have created the Archons through an MK Ultra whispering program in our ear.
Exactly.
And I have to ask, is it what's going on? Because that would explain a lot of things.
I think that's the parasite, logi, the parasitic infecting agency of the interface system here. I absolutely would agree with you. So if we are the Nephilim with the spark originally of Lilith and her sister of the prime creator, who are the elite and what are they?
Yeah.
Because they don't have this. So who are they?
Yeah. This began long time ago, and the war was between the Anunnaki gods, the Enlil faction and the Enki faction. And the Enlil faction won this war. And in this Enlil faction you will find Ninurta, Saturn. And Zeus became fall under Enlil and Ninurta and become this fallen angel, or whatever you want to call him. That's the reason why Agent Smith in the movie Matrix says, I got to get out of here. I need the key. I can't stand this zoo. Because he was trapped here with us, right?
Right. Yep.
And the elite came from Babylon, Sumeria, worshipping Ninurta and Enlil. So you have a priest class, an esoteric priest class, dedicated to different gods in the Anunnaki pantheon. But this priest class was very successful to infiltrate the Mardukites in Babylon. They destroyed the temple, the Tower of Babel, aimed at open up the matrix in order for Marduk not to fall prey to these forces and open up to his father Enki, Sirius. And we can see this in Freemasonry. They have the Sirius and they have the temple, and they are the modern Mardukites in its core. Right? Now, Marduk priest class became infiltrated by Ninurta, Saturn, and Enlil. And later on, you had an elite that started to worship Saturn. And you have this black cube, because the black cube is the symbol of Saturn. They worship the demiurge. Now, they say that the demiurge is the god over matter. So we worship the god in this material reality. Because we have lost our spark. We can't go back to source. And if we can't go back to source, or if we can't use our spark to transform, then let's worship the god of this material realm. And that's the demiurge, that's Ninurta, that is Enlil. And that's the reason why you see black cubes. That's
everywhere.
Everywhere. And if you're a very dedicated priest class of Ninurta, you give up your soul, you sacrifice a soul to Ninurta. And then Ninurta, Saturn, bounds you to that current. And through that process, they get the gnosis of Ninurta. That means more power in matter, because Ninurta Saturn is about matter, time, schedules, hierarchy, restraint, to hold back. You have the Kaaba in Mecca, where they run around this cube. They like to dress the women in black, have total control over them. That's the ultimate form of this derailed, out of control archontic force, I would say.
So would you say that's Satan?
In a way, yes. If you have the tarot deck, you have, for example, the card number 15 is the devil, and that card is also attributed to Saturn and matter. So there is a connection there.
Right.
I used to say they worship the demiurge, the god of matter, because they can't transcend. They have lost the spark. This is the only game they can play. So why not become God in matter and control everything? And what god would they worship if they want control over everything here? Ninurta Saturn, of course.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, that's the god they go to. Mm-hmm. And this banking family comes from there as well. And banking and money, control, keep us busy, working for the machine. We are supposed to work and die, wait for Jesus or wait for wherever, or we are only animals in a zoo and do the best of it, work for us, and then you die. That kind of a attitude.
Okay, so how do you think the celestial planets play? Because they're each taking a role in how the machine works, how the simulacrum functions here, and each of them, to me, has been designated a designated power of influence, of control, and of reality making here. So how do each of these celestials work here in the mechanization of reality and, within this containment system? I'm wondering if we can take a 5-minute break and then come back to that question.
Yep.
Okay. So with the celestial planets that are bound and forced to do the mechanizations of this containment system, what would you say about each of them, like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Venus?
Yeah. I think in the Sumerian tradition, all of these planets attributed to one of the gods. Like Mars is attributed to Nergal, and it's the planet of war, of course. And we have some photos of Mars, and you have the face of Mars. And right. One thought it looked like Zeus' face, and Zeus is Marduk. But should be Nergal, but it doesn't matter. And what I think this planet is all about is they are archons because we have given them this attribute and our worship and a name of an Anunnaki god, and then we start to focus on them and give them power, recharge them up, I think. So we really create the Matrix prison with our own mind. This is a prison for our mind, right, in the movie Matrix, for the most part.
Yeah,
and then they add a layer of technology to this as well. It's become a technology, mind-manipulated prison for our mind with technology also. So it's both and. But you will find technology on the moon, you will find technology on Mars, and I think it's a war going on the moon as we speak. And this war might be between the elite and another group over there. I don't know. But I know there is some kind of war going on there. Can be between machines, can be AI, who knows? But something is going on there for sure.
What makes you say that? What makes you say that there's and I agree with you, by the way, that there's a war there, but what makes you think there's a war going on right now over there?
Yeah, there is a person called Bruce Cecil, and he has aimed a camera with attached lens, and he filmed it, and he had a huge frame rate, a high frame rate. Therefore, everything slows down because this technology goes very fast. So when he higher up the frame rate, you can see that there are stuff all over the moon, and also buildings, and this UFOs or whatever it is moving around on the moon. And he has also filmed some kind of war, smoke, crash landing UFOs or whatever it is. And he has a channel on YouTube called Bruce Is All, and I highly recommend it because stuff are going on there, and you can't deny it anymore. And it seems to be like a fog around the moon that should keep our praying eyes to see what's really going on, but still though it start to break down, and with the technology we start to see through all their lies.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Wonderful. Before we get into the next part, I just want to ask where you think Jesus and perhaps the real Christ fits into this all.
Yeah, we touched upon this the last time, and
right.
I want to add a couple of things there. I think there is a real powerful story behind that. I don't agree with some left-hand path practitioner who hate it because it's about Jesus and so on. I think the character Jesus is based on 3 different characters. Now, it sounds boring, but it ain't. Because we know that an esoteric master, a real practitioner, can do a lot if we wake up. Like the character Odin is an esoteric master who waking up. And we can become so much more powerful than we think. And for me, that's a more powerful story than to believe that a God came down here and tried to save us. What the real character, Jesus, was an esoteric master. I think his name was Ben Stada. He tried to show us that we can overcome this matrix. We can rise above it through method. You can do what I can do with method. So I really believe he existed. But they, as always, they take it, distort it, and turn it around against us. And they love to do that. And always do it like that. So this wouldn't be any...
Right, well, what better way to neutralize an entire population but have them believe that they can be saved and they don't need to do anything at all?
Exactly. That's the perfect plan.
Yeah.
Then they have you.
Mm-hmm.
They got you.
Exactly.
And
brilliant.
Very interesting character was taken hostage by the Romans, and it was a Jew called Josephus. And Josephus is the one who writes the history. And he was caught like 67 after Christ. And this person was started working with the Roman and the Vespasian emperors. The new emperor who took over after the Claudians and that dynasty. And he worked for them. And fun enough, he's writing the history, and the Gospels was written between 70, and 120. Who did it? Who did these Gospels? For propaganda purpose for the Romans to neutralize the Jewish people who wait for the warrior Messiah. Now, it happens 0, but would it be perfect plan to just shift the timeline or to take back the timeline to say, this has already happened, your Jesus have already been here, you crucified him, he will never come, your warrior Messiah will not come, you see? Mm-hmm. Now you should peace with Rome, don't wait for this warrior. Of course, the Jewish people didn't buy it, they didn't want to have anything with it, And surely enough, they have their own calendar because they don't give a shit about this distorted timeline. Of course, people would like, wow, what? It's year 70 now, and you tell 140 now, and you tell this is really 17, and the 0 was 70 years ago. What are you talking about? Of course, it was a huge struggle, but we all know that after a couple of generations, they get used to it, they buy it, they forget, they bury the fact what they have done. And the Vespasian family, they built the Colosseum. And what is Colosseum? It is a sacrifice to Saturn. And Saturn is the god of time. It's a sacrifice for the deal they made with Saturn in Earth. Because Colosseum and the gladiator games is a sacrifice to Saturn. That's all there is.
Exactly.
And they were the one who put up the Colosseum and made it into this huge spectacle. Of course, they killed humans, animals in similar ordeals before, but this one was huge. It was like, on another level and scale.
Right. So who do you think that the Jewish people represent? What God? What is the deal about that, and why did Jesus have to be born as a Hebrew? Like, who are these people? Who is their God? Where'd they come from? And was he really a part of that race?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. But the Jewish race is have an interesting history because they created this temple, the first temple, Solomon. And Nebuchadnezzar destroyed it 600 before Christ. And then they took the Jewish people captive to Babylon. And then you have the Book of Daniel and all of that history. Now, if you notice, this period of history in Babylon was very interesting. Because you had this Nebuchadnezzar, and he was a Mordecai revival renaissance in Babylon's history. He tried to take back Marduk as the main patron god of Babylon. And exactly during this time, you have the Jewish people captive there as well. Why? What's going on here? Mm-hmm. They tried to take in the Jewish people on board to become Marduk worshippers. And there you have it in the Book of Daniel. You have this competition between Enlil, Jehovah, and Marduk, because they are from different lines. Mm-hmm. And in the end of their captivity, the Jewish people learned the art of banking through the Mordecai priest class, who give Cyrus the Great money because the Marduk priest class have been defrosted and have been taken away the power after Nebuchadnezzar's death. Now they worship Nanasin, and this Cyrus the Great come and he sends them cuneiform tablet and says that I am a humble servant of Marduk. And the Mordecai priest class like, yes, now we can get our power back. Who will they back up with their gold and pay for the army? Of course, they will back up Cyrus the Great, pay for his army, pay for his everything he need for this war. And of course, they open up the port, the gates of Babylon when he came. He didn't have to. It says in the Bible it was weak and the structure was weakened and all of that nonsense. No, the Marduk priest class let him in to get rid of the other priest class who have taken over after Nebuchadnezzar's death, because they wanted the power back, of course, under a Mordecai ruler. Because after Nebuchadnezzar's son took over, he was a worshipper of Nanasin, Nanasin, I would say.
Saturn.
So they have lost another Anunnaki god. Nanasin was the moon.
Okay.
And so the Marduk priest god have lost the power of the Nebuchadnezzar, and of course they wanted it back. Mm-hmm. So of course they backed up Cyrus the Great with gold and money. And the Jewish people was there and learned this art. And then they wanted to recreate the Tower of Babylon, but they didn't succeed to create it in Sumer or in Persia. But they backed up the Jewish people and built the new Tower of Babel in Jerusalem, called the Second Temple of Solomon. And that temple was called Zerubbabel. And Zerubbabel means from Babylon, right? And that's the reason the Freemasons is so much, a lot of their esoteric lore is about this Second Temple of Solomon. And the Second Temple of Solomon was destroyed 70 after death during this Jewish rebellion. And the Romans want to blame, of course, the Jewish people for it. And maybe they were part of the blame because they revolted. But they destroyed it, and now they want to recreate the third temple. And maybe that's the reason why it is war in Jerusalem right now, because they need someone to blame if they're going to destroy the mosque or if they want to recreate the temple on another spot. But the goal is to create the third temple, the third Tower of Babylon, or the new Tower of Babel, or what do you want? Oh, yeah, you get what I mean.
So, are the Jewish people in origin Saturnian?
I was at least say, you see some of the Jewish people have this black
cube.
Nephilim, yeah. And I would say they are at least Enlil, Dinurta worshippers.
Right.
And then you have a faction of them who are Kabbalists, and the Kabbalist is like, no, we want to go back to source, and they don't worship any of the Anunnaki gods. So they are like fractured.
Interesting.
And not all Jewish people are like evil, but it's always, you have maybe 10% of them who came from Babylon, learned the art of banking, become this part of this scheme.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Brilliant.